Welcome to the To Fight For podcast. I'm Jamie.
And I'm Heather. We're offering you a seat at our table to join our conversations, which center on healing through reimagining hospitality in relationships. This season, we are focusing on building and maintaining authentic, healthy friendships.
Our friendship has been through the ringer, but now it's stronger than ever because we chose to fight for it. Our hope is to inspire you to fight for yours. All right.
Hey, boo.
Hi.
Here we are with headsets and mics. Look at us.
I know. So crazy.
I know.
It's been a while in the making.
Yeah, a couple years actually.
Mm-hmm.
But our friendship has been around for a lot longer than that.
True. It
On and
has. On and off.
On again, off again. But this is an exciting moment for us because through a lot of growing, heartache, pain, healing, reconciliation, restoration, laughter, joy, all the things, we're able to sit here and invite other people into a space that we are trying to create and we're very excited about.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. Through our own experiences and our own healing, we want to share that with our audience.
Mm-hmm.
Some of our own personal stuff, things that we've learned, things that we needed to unlearn.
Yeah.
Important, right?
A lot of unlearning.
Yes, a lot of unlearning of unhealthy behaviors or things that we didn't recognize in ourselves that we needed each other to call out on.
Yeah. And it's a hard process, right?
Yeah.
When you get to the point of calling out, which that's for a later episode.
Yes.
But we did want to start in our very first episode with sharing our heart, our passion, why we are doing this podcast, where we hope to go and move forward with this, as well as our own personal stories, our testimony, so that you can understand as our listeners where we've been, where we are, and where we hope to go.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I think for me, my heart is really to help people heal. Primarily, you have to have your own healing before you can have healing in a friendship or other relationships.
Mm-hmm.
And so being self-aware is huge. And I'll talk about that. And well, we both will really in our journey of how we both had to become self-aware and go through our own journeys. But through that, you can't have authentic friendships or relationships if you haven't done some of your own healing. Just like they say in a counseling program, you can't help other people through their traumas if you haven't healed through your own. And I believe that that's 100% true of any type of relationship. If you haven't healed some of your own trauma, which you're going to continue healing, right? I'm not saying, oh, you're going to heal it and you're going to be fine. No, absolutely not. That's not what happens. And you and I know that from lots of conversations that we've had, right? Where we've had to continue to call each other out because some of that unhealthy behavior comes back. So you have to just continue to heal and continue to hold each other accountable and calling each other out in a loving manner because you want each person to grow and be a better version of themselves. So that's really my heart. And I want people to have better relationships, to have better relationships and friendships and marriages and with kids and everything else in their community.
I think what you just said segues into part of my desire, because when we fully know ourselves and we've worked on ourselves and we are working on our own healing and we're very self-aware, when we know ourselves fully, we're able to know others fully. Who we are is always going to be in relation to someone else. I'm a daughter, I'm a mother, I am a friend, I'm a sister. And so when we know who we are and we understand where we've been, how our past has shaped us, we're able to really be able to engage better with other people and understanding who they are and keeping in mind who someone else is in relation to us. And as I think about what I'm really passionate about after going through seminary and for the first time really in my life being able to fully grasp who I am as a daughter of the King, who I am in the context of ministry, and who I am in relationship to Jesus, and being able to model him who went before me and showed me how I should be and who I should be. Um, I want to take that kind of teaching and translate it into what it looks like in relationships and in this first season, specifically friendships. For me, that looks like hospitality.
Mm.
The theme that has come up so much in my studies over the years is hospitality. And I look at hospitality as a posture of open arms.
Mhm.
So as I even sit here talking to you now, my arms are open wide, they're extended.
Yeah,
I'm
you
not
guys should see her actually. She talks with her hands, so she's constantly moving her hands and
Yeah.
her arms.
Constantly. And whenever I say the word hospitality, my arms are always open. I'm like extending you, my arms are out to the side. That's what openness in relationship looks like for me. Hospitality is saying, I'm open, I'm myself, and you can be safe here too. I'm not closed off to you. I'm
Mhm.
not defensive. There are no walls. This is a safe space for you to be here with me. And hospitality says that. So, what does it look like in the context of friendship? That's what you and I want to flesh out in
Mhm.
this podcast is how does an open posture stance look different than a closed one? And when we think about this podcast to fight for, we are reframing the fighting position essentially. We love the image of boxing gloves,
Mhm.
but they're not balled up in fists, right? Like this image is kind of meant to evoke this thought of fighting, but not fighting against someone, fighting for someone, fighting for a relationship. And fighting against and fighting for look very different.
Yep.
So my heart is to kind of flesh that out in relation to biblical teaching and what Paul teaches, how Jesus models this behavior, and how we've seen that play out in our relationship.
Mhm. To add to that, we are inviting our audience to be curious about their past.
Mhm.
You have to be curious about your past traumas. What was your childhood like? How was your friendships in your early ages? How was your friendships in your teen years? Or for those of you who are listening who are teens, you can still think about your early friendships and currently what's
Mhm.
happening in your life. And then those who are adults, what kind of relationships did you have in your 20s and your 30s and 40s and beyond? You have to be curious about the things that have happened in your family. What kind of big traumas, what kind of small traumas, because all of those things affect you in one way or another. Even if you have gone through counseling and you've had healing, some of that stuff still gets stuck in our body and affects our relationships. And we know that. I know that firsthand.
Me
Hmm.
too.
Yeah.
So this seems like a pretty good segue into our story time. And I
Hmm.
think that this is foundational for our podcast because
Yeah.
in order to talk about relationships and healing, we have to be transparent with you about our own.
Hmm.
And as you've heard, our friendship has been through the ringer, and it really has. And I think it's really important, though, to look not just at our friendship, or we might refer to it as like the big conflict, the big C, the big conflict in our relationship. I have to be honest, we have recorded this first initial podcast a handful of
Yeah.
times already because every time we tell our story, we're focusing on the conflict in our relationship. And the reason that we're retaping it now and we're offering a different perspective is because our journey, who we were before we met, who we were and who we were becoming as we were friends, and who we are now all matters. When we look at a conflict with another person, it's never just about the conflict. There's never one thing, one specific
It's not an
thing.
isolated event.
Correct. There's a whole story. When we look at the whole person, and this kind of goes back to what I was saying about wanting to have open arms to embrace the whole person before us, we're acknowledging that other person's humanness
Hmm.
and all of that stuff that comes with it, our past and what we're working on. And so when we want to share our story, we want to share who we are. So this is going to be a very vulnerable moment for both Jamie and I because we want to share pieces of our testimony, how how we became the people that we are today and where our friendship intersects with one another in our lives
Hmm.
and how that shaped our first friendship, which we will refer to as friendship
Friendship
number
number
one.
one. Friendship number one.
Friendship number one, and then friendship number two, which is our current friendship. But the whole story matters.
Yeah.
And one thing that we can learn from Jesus right now in this moment is Jesus was a storyteller. He communicated with people by being able to be relatable and offering insight and stories and examples that offered solidarity, but also reminded people how he works in those moments. And as we share our stories, I would love to keep in mind that Jesus is near, that he constantly worked with both of us in the good times that shaped us and in the
Hmm.
painful times that shaped us. And here we are on the other side of this in a place of healing and reconciliation. And this is about me and Jamie that I'm specifically talking to right now, that we have walked through a hard thing. And now we want to invite you into that space with us because our desire is to share how we healed so that you might find healing and reconciliation in your own relationships.
Hmm. Yeah. So I guess I'll go first then.
Sure, go first.
Okay. Okay. Yep. I'm going to do that.
Mhm.
I think it's really important that we both share some of our family dynamics and our early friendships. So, if I talk about my family dynamics, and I'm not going to get too deep, but I think it's really important that in order to heal current relationships, you have to be open and curious and reflective about your past. You
Mhm.
have to, because there are certain things in my family and in my past friendships that have affected the way I view things currently. So, a little bit about my childhood. I have one brother. So, we were a family of four. My parents did not get along. They didn't. They fought a lot in my childhood. I remember standing in the kitchen and them screaming and yelling at each other over things like I wanted to wear these pink sparkly boots, these cowgirl boots, and they were my favorite thing, and I wanted to wear them all the time. And I remember at an early age standing in the kitchen and my parents screaming and yelling because my dad didn't want me to wear them, and my mom was like, "Who cares what shoes she wears?" And I remember that.
Hmm.
Yeah. So that shaped relationships, all relationships for me. It also shaped my attachment style. So, for those of you who know attachment styles, I'm not going to get too deep on that. I have a fearful avoidant and a dismissive avoidant attachment style. I'm a little bit of both, which has shaped some of the things that I have done in my past. And I'll relate that more as I talk about during our friendship and in between. So lots of fighting, lots of yelling, lots of ignoring each other in my household. My dad wouldn't talk to my mom for months on end, weeks. I mean, just completely ignore her. So this shaped how relationships should work in
Hmm.
my life. And then as I am growing up, I would retreat a lot to friends' houses. People always wanted to come to my house and hang out, and I always wanted to get out of my house.
Hmm.
But my parents weren't around a lot. So I think that's why people wanted to come to my house. It was
Yeah.
like this free space. But for me, it was an unhealthy space, an unsafe space, and I didn't really want to be there. So I always wanted to leave. So the moment my family would get back, I'd usually be like, okay, let's get out of here now. Fast forward to high school. And there's a key moment that I will never, ever forget. I went to school one day and none of my girlfriends would talk to me, wouldn't make eye contact with me, wouldn't say hello. It was like I didn't exist. I had a couple of really close guy friends. They talked to me, and that was it. None of the girls would talk to me. I just had completely been ghosted in real life, though. We didn't have social media back then. So show up to school face to face, like, what's going on? Are you mad at me? Why are you not talking to me? So I'm looking to have a conversation and they're just
Yeah, there's nothing.
nothing,
Oof, yeah, that's rough.
nothing.
I
So
know what that
that,
feels like.
yeah,
Foreshadowing.
foreshadowing. So that definitely shaped friendships and how I trust people in relationships
Hmm.
because I'm always on guard. Obviously less now, and I'll talk about that, my
Hmm.
healing journey. But that's my family dynamics, some of my friendship stuff. That has definitely shaped the way I view all relationships in my life.
Do you feel like for you, it's been easier or harder to maintain female friendships versus male friendships?
Harder. The only people that I talk to from my past would be men.
Hmm.
Like
Any,
people I've known since I was, 6, 7, 8 years old.
yeah. And are there thoughts on why that might be?
I think not all men, but a lot of men, they're not afraid to just call it for what it is.
Hmm.
They have the uncomfortable, difficult conversations. They might not have really um, deep conversations, but if they don't like something, they're going to be like, why the hell did you do that? What's wrong with you?
Right.
Where girls, I feel like, tend to just keep it inside. They don't say anything, they let it build up. And then all of a sudden, they let that affect their relationship because then they start to have pent up feelings about the other person and or talking about it with other people, and then more things get fed into that, and
Hmm.
it just creates this really unhealthy cycle,
Hmm.
is what I believe. Now
Yeah.
there are definitely men who will have very in-depth transparent conversations, for sure. I'm not trying to, say that all men are
Right.
like
Yeah.
that or all
Hmm.
females are like that, but in my experience in life, that's what I think happens.
It makes sense to me. I mean, I see my two teenage boys, they will literally hurl the most awful, like spoken insults at one another. And then they're like laughing 2 seconds later. And I'm
Mhm.
like, how do you guys get over that and move on so quick?
Yeah. Uh-huh. Could you imagine if that was females?
Yeah, no, we would never move on.
Yeah.
That would be like written on our gravestone, like, still hates so and so for saying this thing back in 1983, Like,
Uh-huh. But that's because they don't talk about it, right?
right. Yeah.
And we just, oh, it's fine. We're going to sweep it under the rug
Hmm.
and we're not going to talk about it.
No, not some more. If you're listening to us, then we are not going to let you sweep anything under the rug
No.
anymore. Yeah.
Yeah. We're going to talk about how we don't do that and we didn't do that.
Hmm.
So, all right. So now you have to share a little bit of your past family and friendship relationship.
Okay. Well, I grew up in a family of 6. I had 3 younger brothers. I think this is something that you and I might be a little bit similar in, is I had a lot of more male friendships than female friendships.
Mm-hmm.
But growing up, I was the oldest daughter in a very loving household. However, as a young girl, and this is no fault of my parents, growing up in a house full of boys, I kind of felt a little lost. I didn't really have the girly voice that I think I really wanted. And that's just because I was surrounded by boys. When I played with toys growing up, I played with micro machines and battle beasts and rustlers.
Yeah.
So I think deep down, I felt like a part of me was stifled. I wanted to be girly, and I couldn't always be girly if I wanted to play or, be around my brothers.
Mm-hmm.
So I think as a smaller child, I felt quieted, not intentionally quieted by anybody, but just quieted. I felt like I kept things inside to try to assimilate into my surroundings and fit in a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
And as I grew older and I had relationships, friendships in middle school, you talked about a very specific moment in high school. I have a very core traumatic memory in 6th grade. I remember walking into the lunchroom and the group of girls that I normally would sit with were not sitting at the table that we normally all sat at. And I found them sitting a few tables over, and I walked over and I said, "Hey, how come we moved?" And none of them looked at me.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, "Hey, hey guys, what's going on? And one of the girls, I still remember her name, which I will not say, but we're talking about core memories here. I will never forget that girl's name. And I take it to my grave.
And the faces,
Oh,
right?
and
And what they're,
uh huh.
uh-huh.
Yes. She had a ponytail in her hair. I mean, I remember all the details. She looked up at me and she said, well, we formed a new club. And I could tell my stomach was starting to churn. And I'm like, what club? And her response was the I Hate Heather Club. And all the other girls just looked at her. They didn't look at me. And I remember walking away from all the girls that I thought were my friends and going and sitting by myself at a lunch table. This was sixth grade. And that is a core memory for me, the I Hate Heather Club, because I think that had a very profound moment in shaping how I view female friend groups.
Yeah.
That they can turn on me on a dime,
Mm-hmm.
that they can kick me out of their group, and then I will be left all alone. And that is not the first time that a friend has abandoned me or walked away from me without any sort of explanation. And I'm left wondering, what did I do wrong? What's wrong with me? That became an internal dialogue for me. What is wrong with me?
Mm-hmm.
So I started to carry that through high school and college, and it was much easier for me to have guy friends. I was afraid of girls. Like, girls scare the crap out of me. I'm like, they're mean. And sometimes they really are mean. Not all girls. But for me, that was my story. And so I ended up having serious boyfriends because they felt safe for me. I'm like, the guy's not going anywhere. And that really began to shape my friendships. In college, I had a couple of very close friends who I love dearly, but I always felt like there was an emptiness, I think, deep down. And I can remember praying, God, I just want a best friend. And not just one best friend. I wasn't praying for just a soulmate to come and, cure all my problems in life. But I think I just was craving a deep, intimate connection, and I didn't know how to get that. And as I moved through, let's see, Alabama. I lived in Alabama. That's where Eric and I were first married. My husband, we have 3 boys, so I'm still surrounded by boys. We moved through youth ministry jobs and ended up here in this small little town in Illinois, a little farm town. My husband is a farmer. And as I moved here as an outsider, someone who was craving connection and had young kids, I was looking for a friendship. And now that I'm married, I can't exactly just have a whole bunch of guy friends that I go hang out with. We don't really hear about that much anymore. It's like you get married and
It
like
changes things.
bye, all of my friends. And if you're like us and you have a whole bunch of guy friends, that kind of, that sucks. Like,
It's isolating.
yeah. So, and so is moving. And you came here and I came here and we met and we became friends. And so here we begin friendship number 1.
Mm-hmm. Friendship number 1. So we became friends and started hanging out. And it was a pretty large group of us.
Yeah.
That we were all friends and we would all hang out and do things together.
We did Bible studies together.
Yeah.
And I think starting off, we were really just trying to get connected. We met through our husbands who had grown up here, and their jobs kind of intersected every now and then, and they became reconnected. And
yeah, because neither one of us, Heather nor I, grew up in this rural town. So we got connected, yes, because of our husbands, and then because of things in the community.
Right. A very small community.
Yeah.
So a lot of overlap in where we go to church or where our kids go to school and where we shop. There's one Walmart, not Walmart, but, for the foodie in me, I want a place I can go buy like fresh
fish,
lamb shank.
Oh, yeah. I know. It's so sad.
Anyways. Okay.
Okay. Yeah. So then we started to build a friendship, became friends. Our families are hanging out.
We're traveling together. Like, we're doing vacations together. Yeah. You're one of my people.
Yeah. And then you're not one of my people.
So before we get there, as we are developing our friendship, and this is growing, we're keeping in mind what we're bringing into a friendship as we're meeting, right? So I'm bringing in the Heather who didn't speak up for herself.
Mhm.
And I had, and I can share more in future podcasts, but I'd had enough experiences in my life where I had been silenced, where my voice had been either dismissed, overlooked, where I'd been belittled, I had been laughed at uh, by male leaders, even in the church. I had had so many encounters with people who either did not value my voice, did not listen to my voice, or made me feel like what I had to say was just n- not important. That as I am in relationships, I'm not speaking up for myself. So I'm not communicating my
Yeah.
feelings. I'm letting all of this, I hate Heather Club stuff. I mean, I literally carried this through with me since sixth grade. Fear of abandonment and carrying that with me. That's my attachment style. Jamie talked with hers a little bit. Mine is,
Anxious,
yes,
preoccupied.
anxious, preoccupied. So the fear of abandonment drove my attachment style in friendship. So I would get very anxious. I sensed a shift coming as Jamie and I are good friends in a very large friend group that was actually quite unhealthy.
Mhm.
I sensed a shift coming and I started saying subtle things, but I wasn't clearly communicating how I felt, what I was actually seeing, why I was feeling the way I was
Mhm.
feeling. And because I think I sensed abandonment might be coming.
Yeah. And
Um,
and so I do wanna say this because I
mhm,
want you to know there were times that you said how you were feeling or how things made you uncomfortable,
mhm,
but it was very, I don't know if vague is the right word.
mhm,
It wasn't very in depth. It wasn't a whole lot. Okay, I'm feeling like this. Is this how you are treating me, Jamie, or is this something from my past that's creeping in?
mhm.
It was just like
There's a lot of self doubt.
wish-washy.
Yeah.
Yes, wish-washy and self-doubt in the conversations that we would
Mhm.
both have.
Because I think I believed there was something inherently wrong with me. I think I had allowed myself to believe that lie
Mhm.
for a long time. And as you and I were starting to pull away, I was in seminary. So I'm unlearning a whole bunch of stuff about
Mhm.
what I had learned growing up in the church, but even who I was as a person. And as I'm unlearning and I'm starting to relearn and rebuilding this stronger sense of a theological foundation, I'm then starting to become a little bit more confident, more bold in my speech. But at this point, you and I weren't speaking, but I'm strengthening. I'm moving through this
Yeah.
part of my journey, strengthening. Prior to that, there was you walking away.
Yeah. So again, like Heather said, we shared some of our family history and our friendship history because that plays into the people that we are.
Hmm.
Those moments with friends in sixth grade and in high school and other moments that we didn't share, they don't just magically disappear because you've had healing. You've gotten to know yourself. You recognize your unhealthy coping strategies and you've changed them to not use the unhealthy coping strategies anymore. And now you have different strategies, or you don't even need them because you realize it's safe. Those moments never disappear. We're going to have those traumatic friendship memories forever,
And they shape us. Our
and they shape
past
us.
shapes us.
Yes. So, mine with all of my stuff is learn to just not really trust people. I became very independent, and I am still independent. It is something that I feel like I'm probably going to fight forever because there are times when Heather will say, I know that you need help. Stop being like that and just ask for help already. Like, what
Hmm.
is wrong with you?
Hmm.
And I need that. Like, I need somebody to call that out in me because that is a weakness of mine, but it has been shaped from my past. So, in friendship number one, I was independent. I didn't have a whole lot of real conversations with people because I felt overwhelmed by not only my emotions, but like their emotions. And I love helping people. I love listening to people, but I had no strategy to listen to people's stuff and then carry my own stuff that had not been healed without it overtaking everything in my life, but I didn't realize that it was overtaking. So
Mm.
then I start developing and taking on other behaviors, even though I know that they were not correct, I still would take them on, like gossiping about people, sharing maybe too many intimate details about my life and my story. I've been told my whole life that, Jamie, you're bitchy and you overshare. So then what do? Like, okay, I guess I just don't share as much anymore. So that's like stifling who I am, though. So
Right.
there's things that I had started to develop, and then I used some of my unhealthy coping strategies, which would be dismissive, avoidant. And I just walked away from Heather and completely ghosted her.
Hmm. So we have this friendship, just a brief recap. We have this friendship. We're very close. Our husbands are close. Our kids are pretty much
Hmm.
the same age. They're close. We've traveled together. We do Bible studies together. We are friends. We see each other regularly. We're very intertangled in our small town community. And there was a string in our large friend group. And it felt like a stirring to me being on the other side of it, not really knowing what was happening. I felt like I was a part of something, and then all of a sudden I wasn't. And a
Hmm.
big part of that was Jamie walking away. So then I'm left feeling alone because when Jamie walked away, she kind of took an entire friend group with her. I felt very isolated and lonely. And that's important here because this all happened right at the beginning of when I was in seminary and Jamie was getting her master's in counseling. And so we're both going through this growing process,
Yeah.
or maybe I should say this growing process was just beginning as this
Hmm.
conflict was starting to show itself in
Yeah. It's
our,
just
yeah.
the beginning.
So apart from each other, we're then doing all of our inner work. And I'll let Jamie share her inner work, but mine was, like I've already shared, really figuring out who I am and finding the strength and confidence to be who I am. So I'm going through a strengthening process during seminary. Through this strengthening process, I find my voice. A voice that had been stifled, a voice that had been dismissed. I'm a writer, so I'm starting to write again, and I'm writing with confidence and boldness, not because of who I am, but because of what God put in me. And I found a new sense of maybe joy as well in being able to just be me and unapologetically me.
Yeah.
I became a little bit more authentically me, and I've always been an authentic person, which is why I think sometimes. And you and I are going to go back in future podcasts and talk more specifically about our relationship 1 versus relationship 2.
Yeah.
But as someone who struggled with her voice, it's very difficult to speak up and be authentic when you don't feel safe in certain situations with certain people. So I wasn't able to offer that authentic part of me in friendship number 1. So as I'm working through all of my stuff, you're working through all of your stuff.
Hmm. Yeah. So then I am in grad school for mental health counseling, and I am forced to work through a lot, if not most of my stuff. I had been to counseling before, so it's not like, oh, I'm going through grad school. I want to be a counselor for mental health and I want to help people. I had been through counseling as a teenager, as a young adult, as an adult later in life, but my program was so intense. And the school I went to was very much, if you don't work on your own stuff and heal some of your trauma and your wounds, you're going to bleed over on everybody else and you can't help people properly. So we had to talk about our own stuff in classes. It wasn't an option. We didn't have a choice. So that really forced me to look at relationships and specifically female relationships in my past and at the time in my present when I wasn't talking to you anymore and I was still intermingled with other people.
Hmm. So interesting that you and I found ourselves in separate deserts.
Yeah. So you became stronger and bolder and found your voice, where I became softer and learned that I don't always need to use my voice. And when I do use my voice, I don't always have to be overpowering and an oversharer. So we both did healing, but it was almost like opposite of each other.
Mhm. It's one of those things I think back on just about when you look at the big picture, and it's always so important. Even when we look at the Bible, when we open up the Bible, we always want to keep the entire biblical narrative in the forefront of our mind. I feel like I was always taught as a little girl, when you want to like hear the Holy Spirit talk to you, just open up your Bible, close your eyes, and point to a verse, and then
Yeah, I've heard that
yeah,
too.
Jael stabbed somebody in the head with a tent peg. I mean, can you imagine on that verse, like when you really want God to speak to you? But no, when we really view the whole story, we can see the beauty of what God was doing and how He was emboldening me and softening you at the same time as we're both in our separate wilderness places, and just the beauty of that growth. And that's probably why I was able to receive you that day that you texted me completely out of the blue
Yeah,
after 2 years of not talking to
2
me.
years of not talking. Yeah.
And you're like, let's talk.
Hmm.
And I said yes.
Yeah. But just so our listeners know, I knew Heather was in seminary. She knew I was in grad school for
Mhm.
counseling. But what we didn't know was what was happening in each of our lives and the healing
Mhm.
and the changing in our hearts.
Mhm.
We had no clue that that was happening.
Correct.
I knew it was happening for me. I had no clue what was happening with her. I hadn't talked to her for 2 years. And then I send her a text message about meeting me at breakfast so we could talk after 2 years of not talking to
Mhm.
her. And I want to make that clear because I think it's really important, because sometimes we get stuck in our heads and we assume because we haven't talked to a friend or to a family member in so long that you can't reconcile that relationship or have a conversation or show up at the table and say, I know what I did was wrong and I'm really sorry. Oh gosh, I can't do that. It's been too long. It's already been 2 years,
Mhm.
because that's not true.
Yeah.
I did
Right.
it.
Mhm. And I will say this as well. We're talking about fighting for relationships that we know can be healthy, but there are absolutely relationships that exist that are not healthy and should not be
Mhm.
reconciled. And we are not referring to going back to an abuser.
Yeah, I'll give one of my real world examples
Mhm.
here. I don't talk to my dad. I have no desire to talk to my dad again. It's not going to happen. It's an unsafe, unhealthy relationship. So I have healed from that. I wish him the best. I hope that he's healthy in whatever's happening in his life. And some of my family's members still talk to him. But for me, that's nothing that I'm going to go back to. And that's okay.
Mhm.
So it is important to recognize the relationships in your life that maybe you want to go back to and heal. But first, can they be healthy?
Mhm. Yes.
Because if they
Right.
can't be healthy, then you maybe need to think about not revisiting them. We sit down at the table and I owned all my stuff. I said, I did ghost you. I stopped talking to you. I am sorry. I can only imagine what that did for you. And I owned it. I
Mhm.
mean, I was also in pain and sadness. It's not like I just said, oh, I'm not going to talk to Heather anymore, and then I forget about her. No. I mean, when you ghost somebody or stop talking to somebody, it's not like, boom, that's it. They're out of your life. I still thought about her and I still saw her because our kids were still friends.
Mhm.
Our husbands were friends. I saw her in the community,
Mhm. Right.
but I really tried to not make eye contact and talk to her.
Yeah, you're really good at that. Not making eye contact.
Yeah, unfortunately, that would be an unhealthy strategy.
Uh-huh. Yeah. And a hurtful one, dang it.
Yeah.
And we can say these things to each other because we've healed and worked through them. And sometimes I'll even joke around and call Jamie a jerk. But I think the reason that we're telling the story this way, where we're talking about our entire life and how the whole picture matters, because it'd be very easy to see Jamie as the bad guy and me as the victim, but that's not That's not what really happened here. When we really look at the big picture, we see two women who carried unhealed wounds and trauma and a past into their lives and were trying to function the best that they possibly could without dealing with the past.
Yeah.
And when our two personalities collided, me second guessing myself and being anxious and not knowing how to express my feelings, and
then me feeling like I'm constantly needing to be self-reliant, and I purposely have a reduced emotional connection with people. I withdraw when I start to feel overwhelmed because I really want to know people, but then I get to know you and then I'm like, ooh, I don't know what to do with all this emotion.
Yeah, and I felt that.
Yeah.
I could feel that. And eventually, then, yeah, that's where we ended up. We ended up not friends in a very hard, drastic kind of way. But when we talk about working through this healing moment for us in the coffee shop, I would not have been any sort of receptive person towards Jamie if she did not lead with, I'm sorry I ghosted you. You owned it right off the bat, and I needed that in order to feel safe to even have any sort of further conversation with you in that moment. So that was a huge moment for our healing. I needed that from you. I needed you to own that. And that also communicated that you'd been doing some work, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So then we started hanging out slowly in family group settings with each other, and we rebuilt friendship number 2. And I'm obviously fast forwarding a whole bunch of stuff that's in between there. Okay,
Yeah.
guys, like really fast forwarding because we're going to talk about some of that stuff in other podcasts. But we started hanging out as a family. We started to build our relationship. And now, do we make all of those same mistakes that we did in friendship number 1?
No.
No, we do not. And when we occasionally, those unhealthy coping strategies come back, guess what happens?
We call one another out. And we've had those stories happen, and we're going to share them with you.
And we're going to share them.
We'll get juicy. We'll talk about some details. But I think as we move forward in this podcast, just to recap, my hope is that healing will be something that does not feel daunting, and conflict can be reframed as a positive thing in our lives. I think so often we have a fear of conflict because we're afraid of abandonment, or we're afraid of being attacked, or afraid of being misunderstood. But conflict is healthy. And I think I will probably say this over and over again, but the absence of conflict in a relationship does not mean it's healthy. Conflict and conflict resolution is a sign that we are and can be safe to be able to speak our feelings, know that we are held by another person, and it gives us the opportunity to connect and grow deeper and have more intimate relationships.
Yeah, I agree. For sure. And I think something else that Heather and I talk a lot about is peacekeeping. And we don't want to be peacekeeping people in our friendship.
No, we want to be peacemakers.
Yes.
And sometimes that looks like stirring up a little bit of trouble.
It does. I don't want to be a peacekeeper with Heather and just continue to brush things under the rug or pretend like what she said the other day didn't hurt me and I don't ever bring it up and talk to her. I don't want to do that. That's a peacekeeper.
Because if you're keeping the peace, what you're doing is you're keeping external peace. So from somebody else's vantage point, it looks like there's no conflict, but there's a lack of internal peace. Peacemaking means there's peace for everyone, including the person who's struggling.
Yes.
So we're going to get into a lot more details about that, but
that's what our friendship number 2 looks like.
Yeah.
It's peace.
It is.
Making.
It's peacemaking.
In a lot of conversations, which sometimes, guys, involve a lot of tears. It involves a bottle of wine.
And chocolate chips.
And, oh, yeah, because Heather loves her chocolate.
Chocolate chips, though. I mean, okay, the bag of Ghirardelli dark chocolate chips are delicious. And I mean, you just pop a handful. Like, it's the easiest little indulgent. But anyways, whenever we have a heart-to-heart, it's red wine and chocolate chips.
We do. But it also is being authentic to yourself and with each other.
Yeah.
You have to be able to name some of the things that are hurting you. And if the other person knows you well enough, like she knows me well enough, she understands and can call out, I feel like that might be from your childhood. I feel like this might be coming from your past and it actually has nothing to do with me.
Or the way you just smiled at me, I know something's wrong.
Yeah.
And that goes back to really, truly knowing ourselves so that we can know others. And we really, really take the time to know our people.
Yeah. And so I think that that is ultimately what we want for people. Our goal with this podcast is that people would heal their relationships with friends, with partners, with siblings,
Kids,
with
coworkers.
kids, I mean, everybody. But in order to heal those, you have to come with open arms. And you have to be willing to look at some of your past stuff and how it's affecting your current life.
Amen to that, sister.
Okay.
Okay, catch you next time.
See you next time.